So,
Yes.
do I have a mover?
Yeah, I'm happy to move.
Terry moves, seconder.
I'll second.
Well,
Well, a lot of items discussion about it.
Terry, Tony, discussion.
Yeah, so I think we've discussed this quite detail with the full committee, and we quite like the idea of taking option 4, which is a loan, and paying interest on it as we draw down on it as when they need the equipment at that time. We think we've got a plan, but you never know. So that way, we're not actually. We looked at option 2, which is taking it over 2 years, but this is over 3 years as a loan, and we pay the interest as we draw it down. And I think we have that's the pleasure of the councillors.
Okay, so is it a whole new option?
No, it's on the. Yeah.
3 years.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so. Is that workable?
Yep, so we can do a loan, however, there will be additional costs obviously, because who's going to be, they will have to wear the interest rate, and also like what we normally would do in that situation with the community loan is they would also have to pay an administration fee, because there's a lot of administration in doing it with raising that loan, those loans,
So you think the option of over 2 years is better for the community to look at? Yeah, we're happy to look at either option, they said, but they thought the loan option through an accountant like a better way to draw it down when they need it and pay the interest there.
No, it wouldn't work like that. And my recommendation would be that you would just do it on the rates over those 2 or 3 years. You would pay it. You would pay them. You could decide, say, over 3 years to pay. Portion of it over that 3 years, and then that would come on the targeted rate, and that is the cleanest and the cheapest option for the community to do it.
I think it's great advice. So we will take the 2-year option. I think that's what we want.
Robin?
Okay, this is, I don't know very much about the Whakatā pool.
Age 77.
No, Chris, I don't know about, I've never actually been to the pool. And so I guess my thought is that we're going to be charging every rate here for a property in Whakatā a charge for this pool, for this grant.
For just 2 years.
Everybody in the community can use the pool, like it's an open pool.
Open pool,
How to use the pool?
You do, yes.
So, okay, anybody can rock
But the school has got a portion of it that it doesn't agree with them, but they pay as well.
But okay, so do they have do they have, I guess, priority during the school time that
They get a priority during the week
okay,
for them to swim.
and then there's sufficient time. I'm just thinking about the long ladies up on the hill.
Yeah.
We always do, that there's sufficient time outside of school hours that they can use it for activity.
And we have 20,000 swimming visitors last year. So it's well used.
So just to be clear, it's not going to be a separate targeted rate. They will be paid via the current targeted rate for Whakatā local works and services.
Yes.
Yeah.
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years, that's what you.
And why don't you want it spread over 3?
Well, it was mainly because when they get into doing the purchasing of these things, they've got time frames to do it. So if it drips out to 3 years, the guarantee.
Okay, fine, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Right, so the resolution, it doesn't actually say if we're going to road the unit to recover from the form to our local works and service rates, this were necessary pools over a 2-year period. Do we add the words 2 years?
Yes.
That's 2 years.
Ask for option 2B.
And it would be really helpful for finance and for our rating if we could actually have an amount that you were going to pay over that 2 years. So
250.
250 and 250.
Yes.
We have that clearly in the resolution, please.
Okay. Put the numbers in there, the figures.
Long term local works and services rates is for over 2 years. As per option 2. At $250 per year.
250,000.
$250.
They are.
We can.
Oh, so I'm thinking of your rate card. No, yes, okay, there you go. How's it sound? Okay, so the movement team, are happy with that?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. All right, all those in favour, please say aye. Carried. Right, we're now on to Macaroni.
Thank you. You come to the Smith, I'll pay for you. What page of Macaroni, sorry?
Page 141, the resolution, 141.
141, thank you.
So we're now on to the Macaroni resolution, which is resolution 4S for Sally. And it's the Macaroni land purchase, where we resolved to pursue a land purchase based on option 2. This would require further investigation, and require the outcome of further investigation. Notes that the implementation of the final approval will be subject to consideration as part of future plan. Includes 2 million of capex for land purchase and 210 of OPEX. How would that be? Hasn't said how it's going to be funded. Hasn't said how that would be funded. Pardon?
Option 2.
Option
2 is over raise of money.
So, my concern with this is that, I don't think we've got enough information on the property itself and what that entails. So if the council purchases that land and funds that land, which is currently operating now on the golf course, it's eroding at the northern eastern end. What is the further obligations of council if it's left with this? So it means that the community going to have a targeted rate to pay for any ongoing costs, right, on this piece of land, which is a huge undertaking for a small community. So I have to say that I am not supporting the proposal. I'm not supporting the land purchase at all, and I just wanted to put that straight out there on the table. So for a lot of reasons for that, I will now, Robin, and then Sally.
Just to follow on from that, I guess, I was under the impression that we would have to then go to do another round of consultation with the landowners in Matarangi to ask them to get 100% buy-in. Is that what I'm? So that this potentially could not go through if everybody in Matarangi says, well, actually, no, we've changed our minds, we don't want to pay this. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So there is further consultation.
It's a whole community, Robin, not
Yes.
a small group.
No.
The whole community is consulted.
Yep. So okay, more like a
They have got a consultation. They've got to agree to raise the million.
yes.
If they don't agree to raise the million, then it all falls flat.
Correct.
And our $1 million that we've got in our budget falls out and we don't pay it.
Fantastic.
But the fundamental thing here for me is, why do you think you want to own such a massive piece of land, and in the event that the activity that's currently there no longer takes place, what then, and what's the ongoing operational cost to the community or to council in actual fact, ad infinitum into the future? It's like, is it now going to be the case that any community group can buy a piece of land somewhere because they want to, and for whatever purposes that they want to protect, whatever, and then come to council and expect to target a rate from its community?
So
Hang on. So after me, I saw Martin and John, and then Murray. Sorry, you didn't?
Yeah. So I just want to clarify. So there's $1 million in the attachment B and property for any purchase, and then there's another $1 million at page 71 under parks and resilience. So that's 2 million, and the community's raising another $1 million.
no.
So are we asking for 1 million or 2 million?
And through the chair, the 1 million in district is the money that will be, is the $1 million that council will be giving. The 1 million that you see under the community spaces activity, that will be repaid back through a targeted rate on that local.
Right. Okay.
And
So,
And so now it's John, so is Anita with yours, Martin?
yes, yeah.
John,
next one.
unmuted.
John Newton.
Look, I was doing so well today, and then I just did that. Hey, listen, guys, I'll make my position reasonably clear. I am not in favour of purchasing that land over there. There's been a game that's been played over there, and it's been played very well by the some of the people at Matarangi. Council really hasn't failed that community. That community was failed by developers back in the past. Certainly, we could have checked to make sure that the covenant's been put in place, but that was not our obligation. We've actually handled our affairs pretty well as far as that community goes, but things have been turned back on us a fair bit over a period of time. The ability is there now for those current people that own that land to put covenants on that land and protect it. They can do that. They elected to buy that land. They now want us to bail them out. I am not in favour of doing that at all, not one little bit. And I'm not entirely convinced that every resident in Matarangi wants to be hit with that targeted rate and wants to be part of this process. It's a little bit like that recent little problem we had up Thornton Bay, where we were assured that every resident up there would buy into the fibre and it would be hunky-dory. Well, it wasn't the case, and I'm pretty sure that there are a number of residents in Matarangi that are in that same position. They don't want to be paying no targeted rate. They don't want $1 million thrown around their community. And so I believe council has been to a certain extent guilted into feeling an obligation here where there is no obligation. We have conducted our affairs pretty well over the years. That's where I'm sitting, and it's those are my thoughts.
Right, Murray was next.
Well, let's counter the last question first, that you don't know about the residents accepting it. That is the whole reason.
Yeah.
Whole reason we're going out to consultation on the $1 million. But if the $1 million and the community don't accept it, then the whole thing falls back. And I'd suggest they would never take legal action against this council then, because it's gone through, it's been done. To say that this council hasn't failed, I in all honesty cannot agree with you. I think council has failed in the past. I think if we don't sort out something, we're going to end up in litigation. And heaven knows what that's going to cost us. So I think we've got an obligation to sort it. I think if we go and what we're doing, by adopting the strategy of $1 million, we're putting it right back on the community. We're saying to the community, you front up. If you're correct, and you may well be correct, in saying the community doesn't want it, that will show through. That will be where it is. Our $1 million we've got in the LTP will fall off because we won't have to pay that. And I suggest then that to litigate further, if the community reject it, would be very, very difficult. So I can't accept what you're saying.
Okay.
I was to raise the very same point, is that the community, and we know people in the community who do not support target rate, we know that already. But it's up to the community. If they can't get that across the line, then it's a dead duck.
And the consultation around a targeted rate is very different from the situation we had up the coast where that was in there, correct? We're not doing that. That's not apples and apples, that's apples and yeah.
Okay,
No, I've just got one more thing. Because, we're talking about consultation. What is our threshold going to be for what we, when we get all those opinions back from Matarangi ratepayers? Because at the moment, it seems to be quite divided. Some people are saying, yeah, we want it, we'll pay for it. Some people are saying, no, we don't. And just, there must be some sort of threshold, because we were told very, very strongly that the people of Apito Bay wanted to keep the Molochs, and we were like, yeah, our decision override that. So, do we? So, on the one hand, I'm really comfortable going out to consultation. I think that's fantastic. But I'm just really wary that we might get to a point where we've got a really divided opinion and we have to make that choice anyway. And I don't see it like this is the end, is all I want to throw in there.
Can we have a question, please? Is there a threshold for a target rate? No.
Okay, so I've got a couple of points that I want to raise that came out of the discussion. One was the actual litigation. Going back, the litigation was over the owner of the property at that time wanting to put residential housing on two parts of the golf course, particularly holes 1 and 2, which were open space. And they wanted to remove that open space, or they wanted just to put residential in there, and the locals wanted an open space. That was the premise of that court action at the time, those two residential lots. We're now being asked to buy the whole lot. So my question is we're being asked to buy that for the community. So why isn't, my first question is this to you all, and particularly to Donna, why aren't we paying for the licensed district when it should be local? And with the targeted rate for the other component. So local means it's a new Privé ward cost, and the other million, it's a targeted rate cost. My second, my first point was about the open space and litigation. My second point is over why we're doing $1 million at district instead of local, given the arguments often put forward around purchasing property.
No, I can, Ellen will be able to help too, but I can answer that. So the community groups that came to us, their proposal was at the $1 million, and the reason why we suggested it and they suggested it for district is because of decisions of council in the past as a collective has basically created the situation that they are in. So therefore, they would like the district to contribute.
Well, okay, that's there, but our explanation is it doesn't have to be, as long as they get the $1 million, I don't think they'll care where it comes from. Our explanation is around our processes and procedures and the different principles we have here. It's not about creating new ones because they say so. So I'd just like to make that point. And the other point I'd like to make is around the erosion of that northern end. Now, if they start to decide that because we own it, we now have to start protecting that facility that exists on that property, which currently is a golf course. So are we going to start putting funds aside as a district, on a district basis, for providing erosion control works to protect the golf course?
Well, we've already got a policy that we only protect council assets. So we're going to, and we haven't got assets on that, it's only open space, so we wouldn't protect it under our current policy.
So we're not protecting it.
That policy's already been established.
Oh, no, so for me, on a number of points, so raise the very thing that Murray has just raised, so you wouldn't, it's like many of our reserves at the moment are just getting eaten away. I'm not going to go and do anything about it. What they're there for, to give us time between that and a council asset. The other part is on, first point raised from too, that was the case then, because that was going into the environment court, because that was the bit they were building on. But the bigger problem is there are more issues with view shafts around there, which will go through the same process. But lastly, the bit in question is where the lakes are, which forms part of the stormwater, well, not part of, all of the stormwater management there, which we as a district are responsible for.
No, it's a shared responsibility. And we don't know, well, we don't know, not all of our assets on land we own throughout the district.
Stormwater is funded districtly.
So not all the land that our facilities
Okay, well,
are owned by council.
okay, I just raised it is, we don't have it, and it's a stormwater issue there, and there will be. Don't worry about the legal things coming our way, we'll worry about the responsibility we'll have to manage the stormwater, which is managed by them at the moment, I might add, their pumps and their management. And the levels are way lower than it should be.
Oh, and we want to take that on. Gary, sorry, John.
Yeah, just one point, and it was the reasoning used why this should be district funded rather than locally funded by the ward, the purchase of this reserve, this open space area, I don't buy into that argument presented that it's as a result of failures by council over previous years. I don't really believe that council did fail to any large extent. They may not have monitored what should have happened, but the responsibility was never theirs to put those covenants in place. So I don't buy that particular argument that they have used to get district to pay for this open space.
Terry?
This is always a very interesting conversation. Is this all about holes 1 and 2?
No.
Seems to be that.
Originally it was.
Yeah, so I just wondered, you know, we had a lot of presentations about this and we can hear them all. There was some presentations about they were prepared to fund this if we protected it. And I agree we should protect it some for the future, but it's the funding model that caused the interference. That's the issue.
All right, so we have a resolution. So if we go out with, if this passes and we go out with further discussions and investigations, what, it's still going out with the district and Matarangi targeted rate rather than a targeted rate and local rate. Is that the case?
Yes. So that's what we went out for consultation with those options. We did also say during consultation that there's a whole range. I worked out about 9 or more other options of ways that it could be funded. But when we went through, when we did the CD process, there was the 3 options that council chose to go out with to consultation.
So what happens when it starts to go underwater?
Nothing.
Okay, John and then Alan.
Sandra, can I put a motion on the table if that one has not already been put there, please?
There hasn't been a motion put on the table. What's your motion?
My motion is that council does not purchase the land at Matarangi. Very simple. Let's see how that flies.
I'll second that.
You've got that as one of the options.
Well, it has to
It
be
is one of the options.
It has to be seconded, Tony, and John has now preempted you by moving and I've seconded a motion, which is to not purchase the land at Matarangi. We can do that. So is there any further discussion on that resolution to not purchase the land? Being
I would
none,
like to speak to that motion. I'd like to speak.
all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right, so that's lost. So
What were the numbers on that, please? It's hard to tell from here.
only you and I supported that, John. That's
Oh, so
all right.
it was close then.
Love you. Hey,
Can I ask a question about the motion?
yeah,
Please.
yep.
Require the outcome of further investigation and discussions, note that the implementation of any fund, Does that give us wriggle room in terms of assessing whether the whole of the million should be district or whether it should be partial, or is that a done deal? That I'm just interested in.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Alan.
Yeah, through you, sorry, that's why I came in. The question was asked before, just to answer that. So the proposed resolution says that we undertake further investigations, discussions with the key stakeholders in the whole thing and report back on the outcome of that. So every option in terms of how it might be funded is back on the table. So we're saying based on option 2, but there could be variations to that arising out of the further investigations, etc., with the stakeholders. That certainly is the position of the stakeholders, that they are, as Donna said, they are wanting district to fund the $1 million and then 1 million of target on Matarangi.
Yep.
But certainly a local Mercury Bay is an option that could be put on the table as part of that further investigation.
So therefore, we shouldn't have item 4 in that resolution because that's yet to be considered.
I think there's a lot of support if it went to the community board to fund this, but it's just where the community board wants to fund.
But we were advised to put an amount in the annual, in the long-term plan, and part of the workshop's going through, because this is there. We were advised to put it in the major rock.
So this is not,
We're putting it to full acknowledgement that it made a rock.
And it's probably 23 to 24, so
Yeah.
got 2 years to, yeah.
Can we move that we go to consultation with the community based on the fact that the funding will be through the community board?
no, there is nothing wrong with the resolution, Terry. It's just a little bit of extra wording required just around that capital and OPEX funding.
Yeah.
That 2 million of CapEx for land purchase into OPEX from onwards in the LTP as a proviso in the event of further discussion.
Because it provisionally includes.
Okay, the provisionally includes.
Because the river, I don't know.
Yes, I like that.
But you would, in 3, we're going to be part of a future annual plan. So this is, as far as I know, and I'll be guided by Alan here, all bets are off on the future, we're going to go for further. So it can be modified in future under an annual plan discussion.
That's right, but we just put in there provisionally include.
Well, maybe-
So I will. So you can move it with that amendment.
I'm going to move it. Oh, sorry. But we move.
Sally moved with the word provisional. Martin.
So I just want to know, in the long-term plan consultation document, it's got option 1 as council's preferred option. But the resolution that we're looking at says resolves to pursue land purchase based on option 2.
Yeah.
Because we discussed that in the workshop, that's with us.
You've got to remember all the discussions you've had.
Ah,
So Sally's moved it with the word provisionally includes.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that.
Terry seconded that. Is there any further discussion on this resolution?
I just have one question. So it's about the consultation that we're going to have with all of the users, with all of the people who live there, rather than just the 3 organisations that are moved.
Correct.
So is the third part of this strong enough that it actually says that we're going to ask everybody rather than just the open space owners, the Community Trust and the Ratepayers Association?
All the rate payers in the community.
But not through the Ratepayers
But
Association.
if
In that resolution, it's
That's what it says.
that's what I'm going to do.
That what makes me comfortable is under the requirements of the Rating Act.
Yeah.
And so that is a full process which we didn't do for, yeah.
But I would raise one further sticking point, is that if there is a district component in the funding, it's a district-wide consultation that's required.
But yes, but not for the
not for the rate.
targeted rate. That would come in an annual plan.
No,
We
I
put
don't
it,
think so.
we put it in.
So I want clarity on that. If we go out and fund that consultation.
Yeah.
For this purchase, and it includes $1 million of district rate, right? Then it has to be a district-wide consultation.
Goes through.
Why not?
What you would have to do is you'll have to accept under your significance engagement policy, is $1 million worth of capital significant? That's a decision that you have to go through once you went through that process.
Yeah.
You know, and is it or not, well, our significance or monetary, was 5 million.
It's pretty.
But there are other factors as well that we would need to look at, so that assessment will have to be done. But it could be quite possible that the assessment comes out and says, no, we don't have to reconcile on that.
$1 million on a white elephant, yes you do. Okay.
Well, that's-
We changed the policy to 5 million. We changed the policy to 5 million.
Yes, but that's not no, because your significant engagement policy said it's not fixed at 5 million. You can choose. It doesn't have to be fixed. You can choose on $500.
That's right.
Yeah.
If it's a matter of significance. It's not fixed to a monetary figure.
And that's what Donna said.
Yes. Okay. John, sorry. John, hello.
Yep. Yeah, I'm on. Hey, I tend to agree. If you're going to go out for consultation for $1 million and the district are going to be putting in there, I think they should be consulted on that. And I'd like to see that as part of the whatever motion's going on the floor there. I'll second that if you want to put it in, Sandra.
No, that's in the future. In the future.
Oh, that's the future. Well, just note that for the future, will you?
Memo to oneself.
Okay, we have a leader in Sally and we had a seconder in Terry. So with just a minor amendment to number 4, provisionally includes. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, and because of the decision that is going back out for further consultation, I'm happy to support that as well, because I think that absolutely has to be. I don't think the issue is by any means finished or decided.
No.
But yeah, so it's carried.
Target rate is the key, that it's sort of.
So thank you everybody, that was a nice tricky one. And look, we're perfect timing because we need to get set up now for the Zoom.
No, can I ask another question, Sandra? Sorry, and hopefully you can defer till later if need be.